Hey guys, what's up? iPenguinPat here, and today we're going to talk about the new event that Forge of Empires just let out. That's right, the wildlife event of 2021. And you'll notice that this event is strikingly similar to Toon Blast, which is another popular app in the App Store. So let's get into this event, what it's about, and what you can do with it. So to start with, I think we should just go ahead and get into the loot because who doesn't love a little bit of loot? To start with, we have the new building called the Mountain Reserve. And this thing comes in three flavors: the Bear Mountain, the Moose Mountain, and the Eagle Mountain. And when we go and we look at the Mountain Reserve and we see what we get from this thing, personally, as you all know, my motto is if it doesn't have attack, send it back. So that means that the Bear Mountain and the Moose Mountain are right out, and we are only looking at the Eagle Mountain. And as you can see here, not only does the Eagle Mountain give you attack for attacking armies, but it also gives you defense for attacking armies. So this building is just ridiculous. It is a little bit large at 4 by 6, so it's 24 squares, but getting both attack and defense in a building, and also a very respectable 10 forge points per collection, and the goods, this thing is absolutely crazy. In fact, it is probably the best building in the game right now, so this thing is nuts. Alright, so on top of that, let's also look at some of the daily specials that we can expect. Now, on top of having a really nice lineup of daily specials, this event has brought back the opportunity to switch your daily prize once every day. So that means that if you don't like what comes up on any given day, you can roll the dice and hope that you get a better daily special, which is actually one of my favorite things that Inno has done in 2021. I really think that that is a positive thing. And this prize lineup is actually really good. First of all, seeing the Botanical Rotunda is really exciting. Now, I'm not going to lie, last year we got burned on the archaeology event where Checkmate Square came up in beta and then it didn't come up in the live version of the event. In this event, I think that we're probably safe. I think it's safe to say that the Botanical Rotunda is going to show up in this event. So because we do have the opportunity to switch daily prizes, I think that it's safe to bank on it showing up, because you'll probably see it at least once as a prize switch, and then you'll also see it probably once as a daily prize without having to switch. And that's obviously awesome if you are trying to crank up your attack in a hurry. I'll get onto that more in a moment. Also, we have the Sentinel Outpost level 1, and we have the Sentinel Outpost upgrades, which are always a good option. We have Wishing Well Shrink Kits. I'm not going to lie, I am a tiny bit disappointed to not see Wishing Wells in this event, because this event is so good for daily prizes. But nevertheless, we do have the Shrink Kits. So if you have some Wishing Well worlds, this is actually still going to be a good event for you, because you can load up on the Shrink Kits and make some extra space in your city. Now, the other one that is also worth pointing out is the log cabin, primarily because in this event there has been a slight change to the log cabin. In the past, the log cabin was kind of garbage because, well, it didn't give you much of anything. It just gave you a little bit of boost for supplies, I think it was, and some happiness or population, I don't know what it was. But now it gives you 3 forge points when motivated. And that means that you're basically getting 1 forge point every 3 squares. So for a newer player in particular, if you're somebody who has not got your arc to level 80 or above, and the majority of your buildings are not to at least level 50 or 60 or above, then this building has a lot of really good opportunity for you, because you do still want to be building up those forge points, and this at 3 forge points per daily special is a really good value for a beginning player that needs forge points more than anything. So, continuing on, let's just look at how these prizes stack up. And we're going to go to the infamous Spreadsheet of Madness. And one day I will actually do a video explaining what all these numbers mean, But for now, I'm just going to explain it. And if you have questions, leave them in the comments below, or you can always visit the Discord channel. I will also include a link in the description and in the first comment that is pinned. So what we have here is we have our attack and then our attack for defense army. I add those up and then we divide that by the number of squares. And then we also add in the road as a couple of squares because, you know, a building that has a bigger footprint or smaller footprint, that kind of changes how much road you need and so on. This list is sorted by attack per square per road. And as you can see, the Eagle Mountain for a Space Age Venus player is one of the best buildings in the game for attack per square, only to be outclassed by Sentinel Outpost and by the House of Horrors, which was an amazing building. And then obviously your Yggdrasil and Sun Temples were also both terrific. And besides that, man, it's still winning. Not only is that super crazy strong, but you're also getting 8 attack per item, which is also crazy good. Like at that point, you're talking about this being a better building than the House of Horrors, primarily because you can just get so many more, so much more benefit, so much faster. You also have a huge 10 forge points per day, which is much bigger than the House of Horrors. And on the population side, the population is better than the House of Horrors per square. I know that most players don't care about population, but for those of us that do, that is a really nice touch. Now, let's not forget the Botanical Rotunda. I did mention that this bad boy is here in the event. And as you can see here, we are looking at a total of, it is 10 attack per square. Excuse me, it is 10 attack in Venus, which is roughly 1 attack per square once you add in road and all that. So it's a solid building. It's better than like your carousels. It's better than standard cherry sets. Heck, if all you're looking for is just pure attack per square, it's better than the Abandoned Asylum. Okay, so this thing is a really good piece, and the thing about it that I really like is that it's really good on a per item basis. Okay, you're getting if you're a Venus player, you're getting 10 attack per item. Earlier ages, you're not going to be getting quite as much attack, but what this does is by targeting this as a daily special, it gives you the ability to ramp up your attack much faster than if you're doing some of these other pieces that require lots of items to build up the set and so on. So I think that makes this a really good option, especially for players that are just starting on building their attack. Once you have your arc to 80, a lot of your buildings are starting to get leveled, your Traz is leveled, your Chateau is leveled, and you're looking to be able to do more fights in battlegrounds and potentially guild versus guild. This is a really good item to target for your dailies. And then, of course, for those people who are just trying to squeeze out every little bit per square, the Sentinel Outpost is always the big king daddy of them all, because that 4 defense for attacking army per square is still the king of the kings. So now that we've kind of covered the items and the prizes that you can get in this event, let's move on to how to actually get these prizes and items. All right, so now we are looking at how to get prizes in this event. And there are a couple of things that you need to do. Here you can see a replay going, and I'll tell you right now, I cannot promise that any of my replays for this are very good. I was just rushing through, just kind of getting an idea of how the event worked, so these aren't necessarily optimized, but if you notice that I have replays of some of these just kind of rolling in the corner so that you can get an idea, I will try to get a video out with some strategies on this, but I'll give some tips in a minute. But between now and then, just some basic rundown of how this event works. You break blocks by matching pairs of 2 or more, and the goal is to get these paws to drop off the bottom of the screen into these tubes, I guess. I don't know where they're going. And the other thing that you'd get is chest. So when you group up 5 or more of the same color, you get chest. And based on the number of chest of the same, or the number of blocks of the same color that you have grouped together, you have a higher chance of getting a prize, daily special, and so on. So here, if we scroll on down, and all of these kind of follow the same pattern, where your 1 star, which is 5, you have a 4% chance. 6 gives you a 5% chance. 7 touching goes up to 8%, and then up to 10%. And then when you have 9 plus blocks touching, you get up to 12%. And that is actually one of the reasons why I think that this event is one of the best events for daily specials, maybe of all time. Now, this is a very skill-based event. If you are not good at this game, then you're going to do terrible in this event. But if you are really good at this game, the amount of prizes that you can get for the amount of currency that you spend is just absolutely through the roof. Okay, so here you can see I'm matching up groups. When we have, like you can see here, these are 1 star blocks, and when you click on that group, it will create the box, and then you drop those out the bottom in order to get the prize, just as mentioned here. Very nice. So here are some basic tips on what to be aware of when you are doing this event. So the first thing is you really, really want to plan your moves and don't just start clicking all around. And the reason why I'm saying that is that it's very tempting to just start clicking at the most, what appears to be obvious match in order to move along in the quest or in the on your board. But the reality is that a lot of times that's actually probably the worst thing that you can do if you haven't planned out what to do. Because sometimes, like here you can see in this case, like this orange block is blocking this thing from coming out the bottom. And if you don't have something in this column or in this column to clear out that orange block, you can easily get stuck. So it is really important to focus on the order that you break the block. Sometimes you have to break from the top down, sometimes you have to break from the bottom up. It just depends. So this is absolutely the difference between getting 1 paw per ticket versus getting 3 or 4 paws per ticket, which in a moment I will show you why that is so incredibly crucial. The next thing is avoid getting fixated on a poorly placed paw. Here you can see this paw is kind of in a bad spot right now because I don't really have a good way of getting to it. Obviously here there's this orange block here that I might be able to drop down. That means I have to get this green block out of the way, which means I can go up here if I can get that green block down to clear that, and then that'll get me the orange one. Otherwise, this column has to drop me an orange. As you can see, this isn't necessarily the best block to be going for. So instead, I'm kind of working on the other side of the map in order to clear out as many blocks as possible. Because a lot of times what I found is that if you just work on clearing out the map and turning things over, then sometimes these things kind of work themselves out on their own. You don't necessarily have to plan out how to get this one little thing. You can waste all of your moves trying to get that one block versus going ahead and taking care of all of the other opportunities that you have available. Which brings me on to item 3, which is work on turning over the map using big combos. And there's a couple of reasons why I say that. First of all, obviously if the daily special isn't very good, then it may seem like worrying about doing the big groups of change isn't really all that helpful. But it's actually a lot more helpful than you would think for a couple of reasons. First of all is that it turns over the map. It gives you a lot more blocks and opportunities to maybe have more paws show up. It gives you a chance for other areas where you are struggling to get cleared out. Then the next thing is also that when you clear out a big section because of a big chain, like say you do have a chain of 9 or 10 or something like that, that means that that color is basically cleared out of that area, which greatly increases the chance of you getting other chains and other combos of blocks of different colors in that area. So it kind of builds upon itself. That's actually one of the reasons why the lightning ball is so helpful, is because when it clears out all of the items of the same block, it's really easy to put together huge chains for your event. Which brings me to another strategy, which is save your lightning balls for the daily specials that you really want, because that's going to be the one power up, the one booster that is going to really help you to get a lot more of the power ups. I also really like the windmill. What the windmill does is it basically changes the 4 directly adjacent blocks to the same color as the block that you pick. And that can actually be really helpful if you get stuck with, like, say you have 2 paws stuck down close to the bottom and you just don't have a good way to get them cleared out. You can just do a windmill and drop 2 of them out. So sometimes that is a lot bigger help than maybe just a hammer or trying to extend your moves. Moving along, I know I've already said it, but I'm going to say it again. Plan ahead. Planning ahead is so crazy important with this event. If you are not planning ahead, you are going to make mistakes. I know without a doubt, I made tons of mistakes when I was doing these recordings because I didn't plan ahead. I was just kind of rushing to get through and just get some content recorded and really just to get a feel for the event. And that brings me to the last thing, which is practice. Now, obviously, you're going to have a hard time practicing the event considering that the event's not out yet, right? But, well, it might be out by the time you're watching this, but it's not out this red hot second. But what you could do is you can go to the App Store and download Toon Blast. Again, as I mentioned, Toon Blast is a little bit different. It's a lot more power-up centric and you're getting a lot more power-ups. But what it will teach you to do is it will teach your eyes to see how blocks will fall and see how to match blocks up in the way that you need to. So even though there are certain aspects of the Toon Blast that are very different than what you're dealing with in this wildlife event, it's still extremely helpful from the standpoint of learning how to navigate your way around the board and learning how to see and plan and predict how blocks will fall, where they will end up, and how to match them up in order to drop things out the bottom of the chute, or how to build big chains and combos to get better daily specials or to flip your playboard more efficiently. All right, moving on to the last section of the video. And this is about how to spend your currency. And one of the things that I get asked a lot, or that has been coming up on a regular basis, is, can I get 2 of these for free? Or will I have to spend diamonds to get 2 of these? Or things of that nature. And the answer is, it really just depends on how skillful you are at going through this event and how good you are at matching things up and planning ahead and predicting. If you are just rushing through this and you're not planning ahead, then the chances of you getting 2 without spending a significant amount of diamonds is pretty low, okay? Whereas if you are really good at planning ahead and you really have this event down, it is actually possible to get 2 fully upgraded mountain reserves without spending any diamonds at all. It's tough, but it is absolutely doable. All right, so this is a really cool spreadsheet that Moutain put together. You can find it here at this bit.ly/wildlife sheet. I'll put a link to this in the description and in the first comment, and make a copy of this and then, or download it, as you can see there, and then you can edit to your own liking. Now, basically the general idea of this is you put how many paws on average you're going to get through your normal first 25 moves, how many you get when you choose to use the extension, how many paws you'll get from the free boost that you start with. And you start with 5 hammers, 2 windmills, and 1 lightning. So my experience was I ended up getting about 1 extra paw per hammer, about 1.5 extra windmills per, or excuse me, 1.5 paws per windmill, and then about 1 to 2 paws per lightning. So considering that was a total of 8 items, saying about 10 free paws, or 10 extra paws from the free boost. And then how you do with the boost packs, this is kind of where it comes down to your play style and what you're good at, and kind of how sloppy you are, or the way that you approach this. And what I mean by that is, I find that if you are a little bit sloppier, or you have a tendency to make little minor mistakes, sometimes it's actually easier to go ahead and buy the boost pack, because it can kind of cover up your mistakes where you can go in and like say you just can't get a block out of the way because you get gridlock. A one well-placed hammer can totally open up the map for you, and you wouldn't be able to get that without the big boost pack. So kind of circling back on the boost pack, let's see here, just to re-explain what we're dealing with, because I don't even think I covered this earlier. So here, just kind of going over the boosters. You have the hammer, which takes out one block, which is really handy for like when you get gridlock and you've kind of got that little checkerboard thing going. Sometimes just one well-placed hammer can break up a checkerboard and really help clear out the area for you to drop some paws out the bottom. The windmill is probably my favorite. What that does is you pick the one item or the one block, and it makes it so that the 4 blocks around it change to the same color. And I really like it because it kind of serves 2 purposes. One is it helps you to drop a couple of items out the bottom if you just get that one annoying one that's just stuck down there. But the other thing that it can do is it can help you to build chains as well. So it's like not only are you clearing out the bottom of some of those things that are getting in the way, keeping you from getting your paws to clear out, but also it can help you to get an extra chain so that you're also getting a daily special or a chance at a daily special, which is really nice. And finally, the lightning, which removes all of the blocks of the same color. And that can be really useful when you're trying to build big chains. Because think about it, if you go from the number of colors that you have originally, you take one of those out, that greatly increases the likelihood of being able to get big chains together for you to get even more big point chests for a high % chance of getting your daily prizes. So I really like using the lightning ball on days when you have a really good daily special where you can, when you're kind of going all in. So one of the questions is, should you use your coins to buy these bundles, or should you use them to pay 65 coins to get an extra 10 moves? And the answer to that really depends a lot on how you play the game, and I guess almost kind of like, are you sloppy or not, or just what's your approach? What I have found personally is that if you tend to occasionally make a little careless mistake here and there, that the booster tools are actually a little bit more helpful than extending, because they can just clean up, just say you accidentally do one little thing out of order, and it can totally wreck your chance of getting a paw out the bottom. Being able to just fix it with a hammer makes it way easier and less stressful than trying to figure out how to get those 10 moves to push something out the bottom, right? So when you're trying to decide how to spend your coins, the one thing that you really want to look at is, what are you getting on a per coin basis, right? So if when you pay 65 coins to get an extra 1.5 paws, that means that you are paying roughly 43 coins per extra paw. Whereas on the booster pack side, say you get only one, you're getting 30 items when you buy a big pack, right? So say you only get one extra item from the pack. At that point, you're paying only 41 coins per paw, right? So if you're really good at the game and you're really good at using those 10 move extensions, and you can get better than 1.5 paws on those 10 moves, then it makes sense to spend your coins on the extensions. Whereas if you find yourself only getting maybe one extra paw when you do those extensions, then it makes more sense to go ahead and buy the big booster packs instead. And in fact, I have this marked as 30, which is only giving you one extra paw per booster pack. But depending on the way that you play, you could be looking at getting maybe 1.25 extra per windmill, and then 1.25 extra per lightning. So at that point, that bumps you up to say like 36 or 37 paws per booster pack. And at that point, it really starts to become advantageous to have that booster pack instead of looking at doing the extra moves with your coins. Does that make sense? So first of all, it kind of covers your tracks if you have some kind of bad planning, or you make some goofy mistakes or whatever. But the other thing is that it is actually more efficient on a per coin basis, right? If you're only paying, if you're at 37 or 36 paws from that big booster pack, then you're only paying 33 coins per paw instead of 41 per paw if you were to be using the, 43 per paw if you were to do the extensions. So again, a lot of it comes down to skills and how you play the game. But I know that personally, I'm definitely going to be going with the booster pack to start with. Now, the next thing to look at is what is it going to cost to get that second one, right? And again, a lot of it comes down to how good are you at this mini game? How many paws are you pushing out the bottom? And I personally recommend going ahead and spending some of the diamonds to go ahead and get the big booster pack right out of the gate if you can afford to do it, because over the course of the whole event, that's going to give you a lot more flexibility and freedom to make a mistake here or there. You don't have to plan ahead perfectly, and you can still get out alive, so to speak, Whereas if you don't have those extra booster packs, then you really, really have to be completely on point on your game every single time, or you're going to end up falling short. And here you can see it is saying that the diamond cost is only going to be $251 for buying 2 booster packs, and that's a little bit off, primarily because you can't actually buy 2 big booster packs without without spending some diamonds. So there's a little bit of numbers that are off there. But here's the bottom line, is that based on your play style, based on what you're doing, you can look here and figure out how many diamonds will it cost to go ahead and get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 extra mountain reserves. And I will tell you, I personally am at almost, by the time this event, by the end of this event, I will be at about 17,000 diamonds, a little bit more than that. And I plan on basically zeroing out my diamonds, because I think that this event is probably the best option, the best chance, the best use of diamonds that you will have in this game. A few things that I did not mention in that first round talking about the minigame were when to spend tickets, when to rush the quest line, and so on. So I'm just going to use this chance to cut this in and give you one little extra piece of advice. So first of all, yes, you see here in the beta there were an opportunity of getting up to 4 tickets per 24 hours. You were getting a new ticket every 6 hours, and on live it's actually going to be 1 ticket generated every 8 hours, and you definitely want to make sure that you are always generating tickets. That is going to be absolutely crucial in order for you to be able to get as many of the Mountain Reserve upgrades as possible. So with that said, keep that in mind. But the second thing is when do you spend your coins for extensions? If you're going to buy tickets, do you do that? When do you do that as well? I realized I didn't mention, but I did some rough calculations on the number of moves that you get from buying 10 tickets versus from buying the extra moves at the end of a round, and it comes out to be almost exactly the same cost on a per ticket or a per move basis, so to speak. So I don't know that there's any advantage of buying tickets versus buying the extra moves and the extensions. I think that if you're spending diamonds, the key is to wait until you have the daily special that you really want, and that is when you should rush the quest line so that you have as many tickets to spend and as many coins to spend, but specifically tickets to spend on the day of a really strong daily special. And then the second thing is, if you're going to buy tickets for extra attempts, or if you're going to extend or use a bunch of power-ups or things like that, definitely focus and plan on doing as much of that on the days where you have really good daily specials, as opposed to doing that on days where you have garbage specials. Here you see I had the Sentinel Outpost, and this is going really well. The other thing that I also wanted to point out is, if you notice at the start of this replay, and you can rewind a second, is that this board actually started with 0 paws on it. There were no paws when I started this, and I just focused on breaking as many blocks as possible, as I mentioned in the first round of tips. And at the end, when I went ahead, I ended up having to buy an extension, and I believe I ended up getting something like 6 paws out of this board, even though it started with 0 to start with. So don't panic and freak out if you only see 1 paw on the board and there's nothing, there's not really a good way to get to it. Just start working the board, and what may end up happening is something like this round where I ended up getting extra lucky and getting a ton of options and a ton of paws versus just bailing out and assuming it was a lost cause. All right, guys, I hope this video was helpful, and I will catch you later.